Part 5 of The Watsons by Jane Austen. "I like to get a good seat by the fire, you know, Mr. Musgrove," replied Mrs. Edwards. "I am this moment going to dress," said he. "I am waiting for my stupid fellow. We shall have a famous ball. The Osbornes are certainly coming. You may depend upon that, for I was with Lord Osborne this morning." The party passed on. Mrs. Edwards' satin gown swept along the clean floor of the ballroom to the fireplace at the upper end, where one party only were formally seated, while 3 or 4 officers were lounging together, passing in and out from the adjoining card-room. A very stiff meeting between these near neighbours ensued. As soon as they were all duly placed again, Emma, in the low whisper which became the solemn scene, said to Miss Edwards, "The gentleman we passed in the passage was Mr. Musgrave, then? He is reckoned remarkably agreeable, I understand." Miss Edwards answered hesitatingly, "Yes, he is very much liked by many people, but we are not very intimate." "He is rich, is he not?" "He has about £8,000 or £9,000 a year, I believe. He came into possession of it when he was very young, and my father and mother think it has given him rather an unsettled turn. He is no favourite with them." The cold and empty appearance of the room, and the demure air of the small cluster of females at one end of it, began soon to give way. The inspiriting sound of other carriages was heard, and continual accessions of portly chaperons and strings of smartly dressed girls were received, with now and then a fresh gentleman straggler, who, if not enough in love to station himself near any fair creature, seemed glad to escape into the card-room. Among the increasing numbers of military men, one now made his way to Miss Edwards with an air of empressement, which decidedly said to her companion, "I am Captain Hunter." And Emma, who could not but watch her at such a moment, saw her looking rather distressed, but by no means displeased, and heard an engagement formed for the 2 first dances, which made her think her brother Sam's a hopeless case. Emma, in the meanwhile, was not unobserved or unadmired by herself. A new face, and a very pretty one, could not be slighted. Her name was whispered from one party to another, and no sooner had the signal been given by the orchestra's striking up a favourite air, which seemed to call the young men to their duty and people the centre of the room, than she found herself engaged to dance with a brother officer, introduced by Captain Hunter. Emma Watson was not more than of a middle height, well made and plump, with an air of healthy vigour. Her skin was very brown, but clear, smooth, and glowing, which with a lively eye, a sweet smile, and an open countenance gave beauty to attract, and expression to make that beauty improve on acquaintance. Having no reason to be dissatisfied with her partner, the evening began very pleasantly to her, and her feelings perfectly coincided with the reiterated observation of others that it was an excellent ball. The first 2 dances were not quite over when the returning sound of carriages, after a long interruption, called general notice, and "The Osbornes are coming, the Osbornes are coming," was repeated round the room. After some minutes of extraordinary bustle without and watchful curiosity within, the important party, preceded by the attentive master of the inn to open a door which was never shut, made their appearance. They consisted of Lady Osborne, her son Lord Osborne, her daughter Miss Osborne, Miss Carr, her daughter's friend, Mr. Howard, formerly tutor to Lord Osborne, now clergyman of the parish in which the castle stood, Mrs. Blake, a widow's sister, who lived with him, her son, a fine boy of 10 years old, and Mr. Tom Musgrave, who probably imprisoned himself within his own room, had been listening in bitter impatience to the sound of the music for the last half hour. In their progress up the room, they paused almost immediately behind Emma to receive the compliments of some acquaintance, and she heard Lady Osborne observe that they had made a point of coming early for the gratification of Mrs. Blake's little boy, who was uncommonly fond of dancing. Emma looked at them all as they passed, but chiefly and with most interest on Tom Musgrave, who was certainly a genteel, good-looking young man. Of the females, Lady Osborne had by much the finest person, though nearly 50. She was very handsome and had all the dignity of rank. Lord Osborne was a very fine young man, but there was an air of coldness or carelessness, even of awkwardness about him, which seemed to speak out of his element in a ballroom. He came, in fact, only because it was judged expedient of him to please the borough. He was not fond of women's company, and he never danced. Mr. Howard was an agreeable-looking man, a little more than 30. At conclusion of the 2 dances, Emma found herself, she knew not how, seated among the Osborne set. She was immediately struck with the fine countenance and animated gestures of the little boy, as he was standing before his mother, wondering when they should begin. "He will not be surprised at Charles's impatient. You will not be surprised at Charles's impatient," said Mrs. Blake, a lively, pleasant-looking little woman of 5 or 36, to a lady who was standing near her. "When you know what a partner he is to have, Miss Osborne has been so very kind as to promise to dance the first 2 dances with him." "Oh, yes, we have been engaged this week," cried the boy, "and we are to dance down every couple." On the other side of Emma, Miss Osborne, Miss Carr, and a party of young men were standing engaged in a very lively consultation, and soon afterwards she saw the smartest officer of the set walking off to the orchestra in order to order the dance, while Miss Osborne, passing before her to her little expecting partner, hastily said, "Charles, I beg your pardon for not keeping my engagement, but I am going to dance these 2 dances with Colonel Beresford. I know you will excuse me, and I will certainly dance with you after tea." And without staying for an answer, she turned again to Miss Carr, and in another minute was led by Colonel Beresford to begin the set. If the poor little boy's face had in its happiness been interesting to Emma, it was infinitely more so under this sudden reverse. He stood the picture of disappointment, with crimsoned cheeks, quivering lips, and eyes bent on the floor. His mother, stifling her own mortification, tried to soothe his with the prospect of Miss Osborne's second promise. But though he contrived to utter with an effort of boyish bravery, "Oh, I do not mind it," it was very evident by the unceasing agitation of his features that he minded it as much as ever. Emma did not think or reflect. She felt and acted. "I shall be very happy to dance with you, sir, if you like it," said she, holding out her hand with the most unaffected good humour. The boy, in one moment restored to all his first delight, looked joyfully at his mother, and stepping forwards with an honest and simple "Thank you, ma'am," was instantly ready to attend his new acquaintance. The thankfulness of Mrs. Blake was more diffuse. With a look most expressive of unexpected pleasure and lively gratitude, she turned to her neighbour with repeated and fervent acknowledgments of so great and condescending a kindness to her boy. Emma, with perfect truth, could assure her that she could not be giving greater pleasure than she felt herself, and Charles, being provided with his gloves and charged to keep them on, they joined the set, which was now rapidly forming with nearly equal complacency. End of part 5.